Afternoon, everybody. How's it going? It's our Sunday comics chat. We're losing people week by week. Rasa had to take this week off. I was still in the mood to talk. I've got a bunch of books that I wanted to talk about. Some very briefly, some maybe a little more in depth. So it'll be me this week. We're going to get back together again next week. I actually didn't do a ton of reading this week. I did a bunch of reading all of a sudden in a short burst last night. I just got into a mode and started polishing off a couple of issues, just kind of reading one issue of a bunch of different series, just to give them a shot. So I hope everybody's okay. If anybody's around and does want to participate, just let me know. I can always shoot you the link here. Let me just see, copy to clipboard. Let me know if you're interested in coming to hang out. I can always send it to you through Twitter for those of you that are on Twitter. Open up a couple of things here. Sorry. There we go. Okay. Welcome. Nice to see everybody. It's been quite a week. We're still in the midst of, I guess they call it a lockdown. It seems to me that there's still a number of things open, but our numbers have dramatically spiked. There was so on the good tip, on the good news side of things, there was a rally. People that didn't want the city locked down. There was supposed to be about 300 to 400 people that showed up. I think 5 people showed up for it. The cops came, had a couple conversations with them, and the crowd kind of went home. Some of the photos that were circulating were spectacular because there was 5 of them keeping socially distant, all had their masks on with their signs saying, we don't want to lock the city down, this sort of thing, which is a valid, I can understand that viewpoint. I think the other viewpoint is that, you lock things down. It's a bigger conversation. Hey, how about I just stop right there? That's not what we're here for. I don't even know why I went on that little tangent there. So anyway, things are intense. So I'm working from home. For the past couple of weekends, we've been cleaning up down here as well. Like in the spring and in the fall, we try to do a bit of a cleaning. Spring is for the garage. Fall is for downstairs. We organized before everything got locked down. We'd bought some shelving. We organized kind of one of the rooms out there and went through bins, and we've been selling a lot of stuff on Facebook Marketplace. I'm getting rid of stuff for dirt cheap for, next to nothing. And with that money, I picked up a couple of books for myself, which we'll talk about later. One of them is in this box right there. Another one is on the side over here. But I wanted to start out with, now I'm probably going to butcher the name, and I apologize for that. Jeffrey Veregge, Veregge, and first name is Jeffrey. So there was a comic that came out, Marvel Voices, Indigenous Voices, issue number 1. I managed to get my hand on a regular copy of it, the regular cover. I think it's, first of all, the thing for me with Marvel has always been, and I'm not saying DC doesn't do this, but for Marvel, there's always been a sense from that company, putting aside how horribly they treated artists and stuff in the past, putting all that aside for now, they do seem to have a history of giving kind of outsiders to the kind of mainstream, whether that's because they're underground cartoonists, whether that's because they're just kind of, they just come from a small indie world, and then also lately giving other people voices. So I think it's really great. What I didn't realize that it was a podcast that then transitioned into a comic. This is one of them that I picked up. This was kind of, I guess, the introduction to Marvel Voices. I haven't read this one yet. I just picked it up the other day. There's a couple of places still doing curbside pickup. So I gave the regular cover to a friend of mine. He's got 2 daughters, and I thought they might dig it. So because I had found a bunch of the Veregge variant covers for a bunch of different titles, including the Indigenous Voices issue as well. So there's his variant cover for that. I personally love his style. I think it's really, really incredible. So it's fantastic. So I was kind of in tune with it. I have seen a couple of the variant covers online and stuff, but I never really, what the actual series was, I didn't really pay too much attention to, other than I just really enjoyed the art. And then he does the first couple of pages in here as well too, with the Watcher. So I wasn't totally aware of what the series was, and then there was one of the artists, or one of the creators, I believe he's an artist, is from Alberta, Edmonton, I believe, and I heard him on CBC. Maybe it was the Tuesday, it might have been the Wednesday, I don't remember. I want to say that it was the day before New Comic Book Day. And really interesting, really great talk, and just kind of what it meant to him to kind of do a Marvel story and how excited he was. So that put it on my radar and picked it up. Now, the thing with this is I don't know what their experience is with comics and storytelling before this for comics. So these stories were good. I wouldn't say that they blew me away. They all seem to kind of just drop off at the end. Which I realize, like, if you're doing an 8-page story, there's an argument to be made that a short story is almost more difficult to write and master than a long form story. Not that a long form one is easy by any stretch, but in a short story, you really have to have your ducks in a row and get a beginning, middle, and end. So the stories themselves didn't blow me away, but I loved some of the art. That first artist was incredible. We'll show you some from further on here. Oh, Rasa, how's it going? Nice to see you in the chat. Here's some art from one of the other stories, and sorry that I'm not saying all the names and creators. They don't have them listed at the front of each of the stories, and I'm just not as familiar with them yet. What am I doing here? It's Sunday, Rasa. I'm here to chat comics. If you're around, like if you want to jump on for a bit, please do. You know, I can send you that link. So it's great. I really applaud them. I think it's fantastic that here we go. There's the credits at the end there. I think it's really fantastic, and I applaud them for doing this and giving people an opportunity, you know. Yeah, I know I'm showing off a Marvel book, believe it or not. I applaud them. I really, really do. I think it's fantastic. There's a new series coming out in 2021 from Taboo and B. Earl. The Apache warrior Kushala, the Sorcerer Supreme and the Ghost Rider of the mid-1800s, burns her way into the future and brings disaster with her. And then Veregge does... boy, I feel guilty. I'm probably butchering that name. Veregge does one of the covers there, or maybe it is the cover. I don't know if he's going to transition to do more interior art. I would love to see his interior art, like for an entire story. I think it's unique. I think that might be kind of fun. So very excited about that. If there's more, I've already told my shop that I have my meager pull list, that, you know, throw any future titles on there, give them to me. And then I was fortunate enough, I found all of the other variant covers that he's done from 2 different shops. And I mean, these aren't series that I'm reading. I just really responded to this art. I think it's incredible. So I'll just show you some covers here. There's for Spider-Man. Gorvidal, how are you? Yeah, that's correct, Rasa. Each of these covers is now for a different book. So this is the variants that he did for various series. This is obviously, well, not obviously, this is Black Widow. And then this is Iron Man. And then Black Panther. And for the indigenous voices, there was a lot of variant covers, as there normally is these days. There was a couple of really nice ones. I think, what the heck was his name? I don't remember. Gee, how's it going? There's Thor. And then finally there's Captain America. So very excited. And again, I'm following him on Twitter now. He does have a website where you can see some more of his art, and I hope that they give him more. I don't know if it's if interiors is something that he's interested in doing or not, but I think they're absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous covers. So I snatched them all up. Let's just stick with new stuff while we're here. That's not new. This is new. Last night I fired through the first 2 issues of Norse mythology. Neil Gaiman, P. Craig Russell, and other artists. There's issue number 1. And then issue number 2 with gorgeous, gorgeous covers. I didn't really know what to expect with this book. I didn't really know if I would like it. It was really, really entertaining. So the first one has a couple of short stories, which is basically just giving you like the Norse mythology of the various gods and the tree and the different worlds and stuff. I'm not even going to try to pronounce some of those words because I will just murder them. And it was great. Really, really enjoyable. There was, here we go. Of course, Mike Mignola there with his little story. And then finally was a story that then continues into the second issue called The Treasures of the Gods. Thor's wife, Sif, has her hair stolen. Loki is considered the culprit. Thor goes to kick his ass, and Loki is sent on a mission to get people to the dwarfs, to 2 groups of dwarfs, one group of 3 and one group of 2, to make a bunch of stuff that they'll present. He wants them to make some golden hair and amongst other things. And then whoever's is the best will kind of win. If they're the duo at the end, if they end up winning, they get to take Loki's head. And then it's continued for the entire second issue. And I won't do many spoilers for that. I thought it was really entertaining. Like I said, I was kind of surprised at how much I enjoyed it. Let's put this up here. Gaiman became interested in Norse mythology when he was 7 years old and read a Thor reprint in a comic magazine. Donald Blake was in a cave and finds a magical stick that transformed him into Thor. For years afterwards, Neil said he would be looking and breaking sticks trying to find the right one. That's amazing. I thought these were really well written. I mean, I'm not a person that read the entire Sandman series. I dipped my toes here and there. I had some of the issues back when they were coming out when I was growing up, but it was nothing that kind of really grabbed me at the time because my interests were elsewhere. I would like to revisit it again, but I mean, as I say, revisit it again, I look at all my full shelves and things that I still have to get to, which is getting less and less day by day, which is fantastic. But I would like to dive into some Sandman again, give it another shot. But I mean, that style of stuff just hasn't classically been the stuff I've been drawn to. Not to say that tastes don't change and maybe I'll absolutely love it, but it's not something that I've been drawn to in the past. The goddamned issue number 4 continues to be just spectacular. There's a 14-year-old boy in me, the same one that gets a kick out of Marilyn Manson's The Fight song, where he talks about, I'm not afraid of a God that doesn't exist. That gets a kick out of this in that same way. There's a real thrill to these stories, you know, with God involved and doing these horrible things to these people. You know, these virgin brides that have to kind of sacrifice themselves. In this one, there's a big reveal at the end, which I won't show you. I absolutely love it. I loved the first goddamn series. I really, really dig the second one. The art is fantastic. It's one that, you know, I'll continue to pick up. I really hope they do a couple of miniseries, but this one is a hell of a good read. And kind of when you get to that end bit, I'm unsure of where it's going to go. It's sort of taken a little bit of a twist, unsure of what's going to happen, but I'm excited to find out. So I'm going to get into there. One that I didn't talk about that I've had for a couple of weeks now, or a few weeks, and honestly, I can't really remember much about it, but I do remember that I enjoyed it. I'm pretty sure I didn't speak about it. Damien had showed it off in one of his videos, and I loved the art, called We Live from Aftershock. So I picked it up quite a few weeks ago with its gorgeous wraparound fold-out cover. I thought it was really fun. I really enjoyed the art. Really colorful. Damien had said it as well. There does feel like there's a bit of a Miyazaki vibe in here for sure. It's not heavy Miyazaki, but when you see creatures like that, that's what it reminds me of. So this is, now it's kind of coming back to me. There's a ship that's leaving, and they're going to be taking some kids off of the planet to get them off of the planet. And this procession here, they're in a bus going down, or some sort of transport. I believe it was a bus going down to catch that flight. And there's an accident. So now they're kind of stranded, and they have to kind of find their way and fight their way to the launch point. I should add it to my poll. I don't think I added it to my poll, so I don't miss it. I think it's a beautiful book. It looks incredible. Interesting story. So I'll be sticking with it for sure. Those I've spoken about. What do we got here? That's that, which will wait. Rasa, I did read. I read the 3, 4, and 5. So see you in the video. Let's see. Hold on. See you in a video next night. I'm off to slumber early as I'm so freaking tired. Sorry about today. No worries, Rasa. Seriously, it's totally fine. There's no pressure. These hangouts are a very kind of casual thing. So we'll see you next week. I did read 3, 4, and 5 of Velvet. I'm going to pause there. I won't go any further than that because I think that's a good chunk to talk about next time that we're together there. So put that there. So, and then the final 3 books that I'd like to talk about today, and I've saved them for last. Oh, actually, not the final 3. There's a couple of other ones here. I jumped into issue number 1 of the kind of first comics series of Evangeline. I think there was a few weeks ago, I don't know if you remember, I talked about reading kind of the one-shots. The one-shots, especially compared to this, were works of genius. This was, I'm just going to be blunt, this was absolute shit. The dialogue was fucking horrible in this. It was really a chore to read. I don't know who it was written for, but holy shit, was it ever bad. I was not feeling it 1 second. The art was serviceable. It was fine. You know, there was nothing horrible about it, but the story and just the interactions with the characters was really just atrocious. I'm going to give it, I mean, I've got the 12 issues, so I will be giving it a chance. I'll be continuing with it just to see if maybe it kind of develops a little better. But boy, oh boy, if I was pulling that off the shelf and that was the first issue, I think that would be a hard and fast no going any further. So I can't say I would recommend the series. If you find the 2 single issues, I don't have them close. At least I don't think I do. No, I don't, unfortunately. Especially the, was it Capital Comics? I don't remember if it was Capital Comics that has kind of it's collected. It's a thicker volume where it kind of has the 3 stories, 2 stories into one book with a little bit of in between matter. Those were fine. Those I thought were an enjoyable read, but this was just not. And then I dug into Whisper issue 1 from Capital Comics. The art didn't do anything for me, but the story wasn't too bad, actually. The story wasn't horrible. A woman and her stepfather have been kind of reunited. She goes to Japan to see him. Some kind of shady dealings ensue. She dons a ninja costume and goes around and starts kicking everybody's asses. There's a little bit of a mystery unfolding. We're finding out a little bit about her stepfather and his previous life as a ninja. And then he is sent to kind of kill who his master was. Otherwise, his stepdaughter was going to get killed if he didn't follow through on that mission. He didn't do it, but it puts him in a really poor place. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with this one. Like I said, I didn't think the art was very good at all. There's something appealing about these colors, though. But the story wasn't too bad. I read it right after I read Evangeline, so that might have had something to do with it as well. When you bookend it with something that's just horrible. So I've got a bunch of those issues as well, so I'll be digging into those, maybe a couple a week, to see how they fare. So that's it for single issues here. Yesterday at Used Bookshop, I found The Goon Chinatown, which I read this morning. It was very good, wonderfully sad. Now I'm going to be looking for more Goon books. I also picked up some films. Yeah, Goon. I had a bunch of the Goon single issues. I never read Chinatown, though. I enjoyed the Goon that I had. They're long since gone. I long since traded them away. And being a film nerd, I'm naturally curious as to what you picked up there, Gore. What did you find? Yeah, I mean, and it's the same for me, Gore. Like I just don't visit as much as I used to. So that's why I'm glad I kind of stumbled onto that interview on CBC to hear about that Indigenous Voices issue. I never would have known about it. And especially now that things are locked down, you can't exactly go and browse in some of these stores. And I'm just not one to kind of dig online to see what the new issues are. You know, I've got, as you'll see, I've got so many older books that I'm picking up and reading and enjoying that I can't really afford at this point to dig any further into new books. So maybe we'll go here first. I started reading this. This came from Book Depository. It actually took a little while to get here, which is unusual for Book Depository. And I started reading it. It just came in Thursday, I think. The Trigon Empire, Volume 1, by Storm artist Don Lawrence and then Mike Butterworth. So an adventure strip from some kids' magazines. There's a Neil Gaiman on the front. Don Lawrence painted a comic I loved. It was called The Trigon Empire, 2 comic pages a week in the children's magazine Look and Learn, which even schools who banned comics allowed. And it's Don Lawrence, so the art is absolutely gorgeous. And the first couple of stories, I don't know if his technique changed or if his skill set changed. Apparently there was a few artists for this. I believe this entire book is just Don Lawrence, though. So that early artwork has a little bit more texture to it. It almost looks like there's some pencil crayon and stuff in there. They were talking in the introduction about Don doing kind of painting with ink. But as it kind of carries on, his style gets a little, I shouldn't say his style gets polished, because his style is super polished through the entire thing. But the look of the imagery gets cleaner. That doesn't kind of have, I don't know how well this is showing up on camera. It has a bit more of a cleaner look to it. It's not as textured. This is a fantastic read so far. I'm I don't know, 30 pages into it. I just dipped my toes into it. It's 300 pages. It is a lot of fun. I can see how this would capture your imagination, especially if there was only a couple of pages. In the introduction, who's the introduction? Liam Sharp is in the doing the introduction, and he's saying that, you know, dipping his toes and finding some of the stories when he finally, like as an adult, when they started releasing these collections and he found some collections of it, being able to read kind of the history was just so exciting to him, because he had just kind of dipped in here and there, not really followed it for a long time. He's talking about going to the library and just kind of sitting in there and reading. So the first stories in this were originally published in a magazine called Ranger from 18th of September 1965 to the 29th of January 1966. So starting in 1965, and then the last section here, let's see what it says. If I can find it. So yeah, and then this last section is from February 10th to May 17th, 1968. And this is stuff that's from Look and Learn. So I'm really digging it. It's going to be a slow read. I'm just going to read little bits and pieces here and there, but a hell of a book, man. Really, really fantastic. Paul Verhoeven's Elle, starring Isabelle Huppert, the Criterion edition of Paris, Texas. Oh yeah, yeah. And one of my favorite movies of all times, and pardon me, and Flashdance, a film I thought I owned, and my wife's favorite movie of all time, or one of her favorite movies of all time. I'm waiting for a few stuff to arrive. Stray Bullets, Uber Alles, Maneras, Golivera, nice, and Morrison, Sebastian O. I'd be curious what you think of that Sebastian O. G. I read some of the singles, and I wasn't blown away by it. The Uber Alles edition is quite heavy. Maneras, Golivera is what one would expect from him in a good way. Morrison, Sebastian O, though I have not read, yeah. And yeah, I mean, that's what I thought as well. It was leapfrogging off of Earl Grey's video, where he talked about kind of European artists. And I believe I don't think he mentioned Trigon Empire specifically, but I think he was talking about Don Lawrence. So as he was talking about stuff, I was kind of hastily taking notes and then doing searches on Book Depository and other places. I kind of sent a couple of picks for early Christmas lists for people, and then I picked myself up this one. So I'm hoping to get some good stuff later this year. So in town here, because there's a bit of there's all this lockdown happening, people are having some sales. One of the comic shops had a fantastic, he just keeps listing stuff on a Facebook, and this is Comic Factory 4 down near my office, and he's been listing stuff throughout the last few days, some stuff on sale, some stuff not. I picked up 2 books that were on sale, again, because they were frickin' cheap, especially the last one we're going to look at. But even this was dirt cheap, and it's not an artist or a magazine that I know very well. Jose Gonzalez. This is a book called The Art of Jose Gonzalez, the premier Vampirella artist. I don't have any Vampirella issues, but when I was looking through this online, it's absolutely gorgeous. I started reading through some of the early bits, just talking about his career and how he got involved in Vampirella, and how all of these artists got involved with Warren magazine. So it gives a little bit of that history there. And then we get some of the Vampirella stories themselves, including, from what I understand, one of the more famous ones. I'm going to come back to that one because that first image is just gorgeous. And I mean, they say it. Was that it? The Rathmore Curse? I don't know if this was the one that was supposedly a little more infamous, the Rathmore Curse of Vampirella. But we'll see here because that's 3. So there's 3 full Vampirella stories here and then some bits. Anyway, we'll go back. It was one of those that apparently is kind of an infamous Gonzalez piece. Return Trip. This was it. Return Trip. There we go. Yeah. And then this was the image here. This Spawn of the Star Beast. Like, forget about it. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Like, you know, you can feel the weight of those breasts just by looking at it. It's a stunning, stunning piece of art. That's a gorgeously drawn woman. So this is a beautiful book to flip through. Then it goes through his career, shows some covers from Valentine magazine, and then just kind of shows pieces of art that he's done after Vampirella as well, too, after and previous to. Incredible stuff. Like it's an absolutely gorgeous book. I'm really glad that I picked this up. It's an absolute stunner. And it really makes me want to find some of the Vampirella magazines as well too. It's always been a title that I've known about and seen, but I've just never really picked it up. And I think I've done myself a disservice by not doing that. So I'm going to rectify that and keep my eyes out going forward for some Vampirella. What else do we have in here? So yeah, really, really stunning book. ETA Nick did a couple of videos, I don't know, 5 years ago probably, on Jose Gonzalez, and shows off a bunch of stories from the Vampirella magazine, and it's well worth looking at for those of you who, I feel like I'm probably the only one who doesn't know or didn't really know much about Jose Gonzalez before this point. But if you're like me and don't know much, check out ETA Nick's videos because he really goes into it. Hello, Francis O'Reilly. Dragon Empire is good stuff, and those Rebellion versions are much more affordable than the Don Lawrence collection ones, although their versions of Storm are beautiful books to own. Yeah, I've got 2. Who did the Storm books that I have? I think it was Titan, if I'm reading that right from here. Titan are the 2 kind of albums that I have for Storm. I would love to get a collection, and I really should dig into those as well too. Jose Gonzalez, wow, his art on that magazine is some of the best in the series. His original stories, though, also found in Vampirella, are even better. Cool. That's great. Dynamite Vampirella collected editions may be the way to go, unless you find individual issues for cheap if you're lucky. Yeah, I mean, he also had a, I think it was just Vampirella covers Dynamite one. I don't know if they had the stories in them. It sold pretty quick, though, the hardcover. Because once I read this and started looking through this in person, I was going to go back and get the other one, but it was already gone. So maybe the collected edition is the way to go. So finally, brace yourselves. I can't believe that I've done it, and I'm going to try my best. I don't know how much we're going to be able to actually go through here because it's going to be challenging. For those of you like yourself, Gore, who aren't on Twitter, when I showed pictures of this, I broke my artist edition cherry, my friends, and I can't believe it. This thing, I mean, there's a comic put up against this box here. I'm going to try my best to open this, and maybe we'll have a quick look at a couple of things, but I have a feeling this might be a video that I just do later on. I actually don't even know if I can open this damn thing without a lot of chaos happening. I've looked through it a few times, and I mean, Jesus, man, I can see why people go to town on these. This is just absolutely stunning. It's incredible. Like, it is. I've never. I mean, I'm speechless. Clearly, I'm speechless. So when I got it, he had posted a couple. He had volume 1 and 2 for sale at an unreal price. Like, it was just something I just couldn't sleep on. So I was asking Damien, because I know that Sleeper Reader has the couple of, I think he has both the volumes actually. I was asking him, if you had to pick one, which one would you pick? And he suggested volume 1. So he happened to be on Twitter the day that I brought it home and started posting some photos. So we ended up chatting for a little while, literally as I was flipping through it, sending pictures back and forth and just talking about artist editions in general. This is unreal to see these pages. And I mean, as far as digging into an artist edition, I mean, I don't think that you can do worse than starting with Eisner. Seeing his work at this size, I just don't even know what to tell you. I'm going to try my best. It's fucking beautiful. I'll probably curse a number of times here, and I apologize, but it's just so stunning to see him work at this size of twice up. Which way am I going here? Boy, oh boy, this is difficult. This might very well have to be a video on its own where I can put this down on the ground and we can set the camera up properly, because what I've done is, I'll show you in a minute actually. Let's see if we can find another one. Seeing the amount, one of the many things that impressed me about this was seeing this art, first of all, at its real size, and seeing the amount of work that he did with white was a bit surprising. I mean, obviously there's going to be corrections, there's going to be things that you alter, there's going to be paste ups, that sort of thing. But there's some panels where he's doing a lot of kind of the textures of fabric. It looks like he's just laying down a bunch of black and then putting in some of the, taking some of it away, pardon me, taking some of it away with the white. There's a couple, there's another one here. And, you know, if we want to talk about gorgeous women, I think that Eisner draws some stunningly beautiful women too, as well. Like this. There we go. Just really, sorry, I'm knocking the microphone there. I apologize. I'm trying to find, there was one panel specifically where it was really the amount of white that was on it. I think this is definitely going to be one where it's a separate video. It's a video on its own that I maybe just pre-record. Here we go. Here it is there. Let's see if I can do this. So there. The amount of white used there to take away those blacks, to kind of give this fabric some more texture, I thought was incredible. I'm so unbelievably happy about this, and it's gorgeous. It's really gorgeous. It gives you, I didn't expect, I knew that it would give you a better appreciation of it. I didn't expect to be as blown away as I was flipping through this. It's like looking at a completely different artist. I'm going to try to put this down here, because you can see those details. I pulled a couple of, actually have some of the stories in the kitchen sink spirits. So last night I sat with it down here, laid out on the ground, made myself a little nice spot to kind of flip through the magazine, or the book rather, slowly, and then compare to what they've done in the comic. I want to find the one image, not that one. I actually had a number of them, and these ones were in black and white as well, which is also why I wanted to kind of have them side by side. So there's that image there that we looked at the giant size. It's fantastic to see these side by side. And one of the things that I noticed, and again, this is where it comes to my ignorance as far as how kind of that reproduction happens for the comics versus what that reproduction would have looked like in the broadsheets when they were originally published. But I wish I could have both of them open, which is why I need to do a video, because in the clipping of this one here, the news clipping, there's so much that you're missing on that background. And it's sort of in the artist edition there, it's sort of a wash that it's not black. It's kind of like a light, it's like a gray, right? So it gives it that look that it's separate from the foreground image, whereas this one, they sort of feel on the same plane, or I guess she'd be in the background. They sort of feel on the same plane to some degree, where there's a lot more separation of the two images in the artist edition when you see the real version. And then they've added all of these, well, I shouldn't say they, because I don't know who did, but the added color there to kind of, instead of it just being pure white like it is in the artist edition. It's incredible to sit side by side with this stuff and just look at it. There was a couple of these ones I also have I have the three color collections of the Spirit hardcover. And looking at those side by side makes me absolutely hate those color editions, because it just looks like shit, especially when you're seeing the real thing. Whereas before I saw this, I enjoyed the color editions. I thought they were great. I liked reading the stories. I liked flipping through it. I thought it still lent itself to some degree. Seeing this side by side, it really just puts it in a perspective that they're just really not good. His stuff looks amazing, black and white. I don't think there's any reason why you need to color it. I personally can't see a reason. That's just my opinion, obviously, like everything on this channel. So, I mean, the worry for me now is there's a lot of amazing artist editions out there that I wouldn't mind getting my hands on at some point, but I just don't think I can do it, because this doesn't fit on any shelf. It literally lives now behind me there, leaning against the wall. It's gorgeous. They're goddamn expensive when they're regular priced. The only reason I bought it is because it was such an unbelievable deal. It was probably 50% off, if I'm being honest. But boy, am I glad that I had it. And it was great to kind of hang out with Damien on Twitter for, whatever it was, 20 minutes, a half an hour, and nerd out about it and look in some good detail. So I've had this open a few times now, laid out on the floor, made myself real comfortable, and flipped page by page. I've probably leafed through this, I don't know how many times at this point. And just soaking in every single panel and every single page. I think it's a great place if you're ever thinking of digging into these. If you're a fan of Eisner, if you're a fan of the Spirit, I think this is money well spent on this. And I'm a bit scared for myself, to be honest, because there is more. Luckily, they're not something that I find around here that much. There's not a lot of shops that get them in. I think Comic Factory might be the only place that I've seen where he's had some of them in stock, and he only has a couple of them in stock, thankfully. He also had a Little Nemo book, but it wasn't originals. It was a new series, because I was pretty excited when I saw Little Nemo, especially if it was at this size, just to get something like that. But when I looked into it further, it wasn't the original strips. So I passed on that and jumped to this instead. And I mean, that's pretty much it, people. That's kind of, the stuff that I wanted to talk about today. Next week, Rasa will be back. We'll do a hangout. I don't know what time it'll be yet. 2:30, 3:30, not really sure. Yeah, the price, I totally hear you, and that's what it was for me as well. Love the look of the artist editions. The price, however, is a barrier, not to mention the size when it comes to storage. Yeah, and I mean that's exactly what it was for me as well. The price is it's just not. It's a barrier for sure. But I'm glad when it was when it was knocked down this much. I'm glad that I spent that money on it. And again, yeah, I'm not going to go down the road, Gore. I think you open a Pandora's box, T. I very well may have, because then I just start thinking of some artists that I would love to see. I would love to see like a Basil Wolverton artist edition. I would love to see a Darwin Cook artist edition. You know what I mean? I wouldn't mind seeing like a Frank Brunner artist edition of some like Doctor Strange stories. A Ditko Doctor Strange would be fantastic as well. You know what I mean? Like, your mind does start to wander. I don't know who has artist editions out there, but I'm sure there's other ones that I would love to flip through. And like I said, I think the biggest surprise for me was what impact it had on me flipping through it. And it's one of those things when you see it in this, a lot of things make sense when you see it in this size to the style and how you would attack a page like that. And I can't imagine, oh geez, hey. I think Jared Osborne has original Seth art for Palookaville. That's amazing. His stuff would be really nice as well too to see in person. And yeah, like that's the thing. I'd be tempted, and I was tempted. Clearly I was tempted. It's here in the house. And with artists like this, and I find with Darwin Cook as well too, and I know that this is just ignorance talking, but when you see it like this, it feels like it's something that you can do. They just make these lines just so they look like it just takes nothing. It's just the stroke of a brush, stroke of a pen, and there you go. There's your piece. I know that that's not the reality, but seeing it like this and seeing his line work and being able to see it up close at the actual size that he was producing these pieces on, seeing the corrections, seeing the stuff that he's pasted up, where there's one panel in here where I guess he didn't like the look of the lips on the woman. It's a close-up of the spirit and a woman, and he cut around her mouth and pasted up another one. So seeing all those little corrections, seeing the little notes, there's not as many notes in here as some of the other artist stuff that I've seen online, but just seeing that kind of stuff just gives you that, it becomes more real, right? So, oh, Jared, I've got a page of pencils for Seth's Palookaville. I showed on our Friday night show. Oh, geez, was that just this past Friday? So you guys are still doing that, hey? Is that back on Howler Mouse's channel, or is it on your channel still? Because I would love to see that. Maybe Twitter, maybe a little post on the Twitter there, Jared. So, yeah, and that's exactly right, Francis, and that's exactly what a fantastic artist can do. The greatness of those artists is the apparent effortlessness nature of the work. We know it wasn't, but it looks like it. 100%. That's exactly it. Howler Mouses. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I mean, that's it. It's been a really good week of reading. Really good week of comics. I fucking love comics. It was just one of those weeks where it happens the past number of weeks, especially since we've been doing these hangouts and been doing these chats, even back when Dr. Monkey Bot, when we were doing them with Dr. Monkey Bot on his channel. It's just been a really, you just go through these waves, and I'm still in this big heady wave of, I just fucking love comics. It's just an amazing art form. It's an amazing storytelling form. I feel like I'm discovering a lot of fantastic creators that have been around forever, that my mind is just in the right place. Some stuff that I wouldn't have been drawn to, like some of, Don Lawrence, for example, or Jose Gonzalez, or some of the European guys that I've been reading, like the Thorgals series and the Minaras and the Corbins. And even like the Dracula book, the Fernando Fernandez, stuff that I normally wouldn't have been drawn to. I feel like I'm in that headspace now as someone who's been a part of this hobby for so long, for a lot of his life, many years off. But it's great when you get to that place. You know, it's like music. It's like any sort of art appreciation. The longer that you're with it, you start to notice other things. And I really feel like I'm in a really good space for discovering a lot of artists that are just classic artists to comics. And that's not disparaging anything new whatsoever. I still do like the new stuff. I still do enjoy some of that stuff. It just feels like I'm in the headspace now of having a much deeper appreciation for these classic artists and what they brought to it. And it's fantastic. And I love that about this medium, about comics. You know, something that'll be with me for the rest of my life. And then it'll be for someone else to deal with once I'm gone, dealing with all of this stuff. Anyway, that's it. Thanks very much, everybody. I appreciate you hanging out. Gore Vidal, Francis O'Reilly, Jared Osborne, Mind the Comics, Rasa. Who did I miss? That was it. G, I mentioned G. Thanks very much, everybody. Love it. And we will see you next week, probably about the same time, like I said. And Rasa will be with me. And if anybody's ever interested in coming to hang out, please let me know. Like Damien did last week, shoot me a message on Twitter. I'd love to have other guests if anybody wants to come and hang out and talk comics with us. Right on, everybody. Have a good week. We'll see you next weekend.